On this Community Wednesday, let's talk about the high damage, slow fire rate Modern Warfare assault rifle, the Oden. The Oden is an interesting weapon. It deals a lot of damage and it fires extremely slow, so you would expect it to be better at range. However, the real life version was actually meant for CQB. So does the Oden behave like its real life counterpart, or is it better for longer ranges? Let's find out by breaking down its stats. But first, let's check out the recommended build. In this build, we're using the Colossus suppressor, the Oden factory 730mm barrel, the TAC laser, the VLK 3.0 times optic, or a holographic or red dot sight, and the 25 round mags. If you choose to run a red dot, then you should swap out the barrel for the ADS stock. Although, just note that you will have to start leading your target at longer ranges. So let's get into its stats, starting with mobility. With the longer range options, its ADS time is 370 milliseconds, which is pretty average for long-range Cold War assault rifles and a bit on the slower side for Modern Warfare long-range assault rifles. However, if you go for the more CQB option, your ADS time will actually be around 290, which is a lot better. Moving on to reload and add times, its reload speed is 3.31 seconds and its add time is 2.56 seconds. So definitely save at least one bullet in the mag when you reload. And when we move on to its mag cap, it's 25. So the combination of these two things just really aren't that great. And if you're wondering why I didn't use a 30 round, if we move on to movement and sprint speeds, they're not that great. It's better than a sniper rifle, but remember, this is an assault rifle. And its ADS strafe is 1.64 seconds, which is pretty normal for longer range assault rifles. Its sprint out and tac sprint out are average at 260 and 380 milliseconds, and its stability isn't that great at 2T. Its bullet velocity is 1,176.5 meters per second, which is great for longer range assault rifles. And its rate of fire is an extremely slow 6.88 rounds per second or 413 rounds per minute. That means this gun is extremely unforgiving, and every shot you miss brings up your TTK by a lot. So when we add up the mobility points, we get a score of 23. So moving on to its recoil doesn't look that bad when you just look at the pattern. And its slow fire rate makes it seem like it's actually pretty manageable. But because it randomly bounces to the left or the right every few shots, it is extremely unpredictable and impossible to use at longer ranges. And remember, the purpose of a full auto gun is to hold the trigger or at least fire in bursts. The second you start semi-firing, you've lost all your advantages. So you can definitely engage targets up to 45 meters without worrying about missing your shots. But anything after that, just know you'll be wasting ammunition. So it gets a recoil score of 32. Its damage is quite interesting. It has a drop off at 76 meters, which is great and I think one of the best I've ever seen out of any assault rifle. In the first damage range, there are two damage categories. It's upper head and torso, and lower torso and limb. The head and upper torso TTK is actually pretty great, so definitely be aiming for head and upper torso. However, once we move to lower torso and limbs, it's kind of iffy. If you're engaging targets under 35 meters, you're going to be losing a lot of the gunfights. However, after 35 meters, you'll be winning a lot. In the second damage range though, there are now three damage categories: the head, upper torso, and the combined lower torso and limb. At these ranges, you're probably going to be fighting other long-range weapons, and it actually will hold up. If you hit upper torso shots, you'll have an advantage, and technically the same if you hit headshots. But you shouldn't be engaging targets at longer ranges with this gun anyway. I get what they were trying to do with this weapon, but in the first damage range, and more specifically under 35 meters, if you're not getting upper torso and headshots, you're going to be losing every single gunfight. However, if you do manage to get those upper torso and headshots, you'll be melting people instantly. So it gets a damage score of 40. And when we combine all the scores, we get a final score of 95. This is the lowest score I've given to a weapon that isn't a sniper rifle or a pistol. Category 4 weapons usually have a specific purpose. Either they're long-range sniper rifles, or they're just pistols, sidearms, something that come free with your loadout. So let's talk about how to use the Oden and its pros and cons, and why it got such a low score. The best way to run the Oden is as a secondary weapon. You're going to want a long-range weapon to pair it with, whether it's a sniper rifle or a long-range assault rifle. If you train yourself to manage to hit those upper torso and headshots, you will actually be doing a great amount of damage, and it will be competitive up close, as long as you're ADSing down first. So in a more defensive playstyle, it definitely has a spot. and because of its extremely generous drop-off range, this thing will be destroying at medium range. This also means that it performs just as good in some categories and even better than the Cold War AK-47. However, under 35 meters, if you are not hitting upper torso and headshots, you will be getting destroyed. There's nothing you can do about it. And its biggest problem, in my opinion, is its recoil. Instead of having perfect recoil, it's kept in check by not being usable at longer ranges, and I get it. This gun is made for CQB and medium range. So if you want to use the Oden to tap fire at longer ranges, you're actually better off using the FAL or any of the other semi-auto weapons in the game. Just not the Modern Warfare marksman rifles. You'll run out of ammo before you can actually do anything. But back to the Oden. Basically, the only thing really stopping it from being great at its close to medium range role is its mobility. You're basically better off using most other slow fire rate assault rifles like the AMAX or the C58 to fit this role, because it just doesn't move that fast. You're limited to very little ammunition, its reload speed isn't the greatest, and its ADS time specifically isn't that great, even when prepped for CQB. So this kind of shows why it got such a low score, and in other videos as we've seen in the past, it's just weapon damage isn't enough to bring up a score. Unless, of course, you have the potential for a one-shot headshot. So hopefully, when they do the weapons pass, this will get a buff, either in the mobility category or the recoil category, because then it will at least fit itself into a specific niche. So in its current state, I don't recommend that anyone uses it. In the CQB form, it's unusable at close quarters, so you'd have to run it with an SMG, meaning after 60-70 meters, you're just a target that cannot fight back. And at longer ranges, unless you're mounted, you're better off with something like the FAL. So just avoid this weapon until it gets a buff. But that's the Oden. Have you used it, and do you think it's as bad as I say it is? Or am I just underselling it? Let me know in the comments. And if there's any weapon, build, or part of the game you want me to cover, let me know on here or on Instagram, and you may see it on the next Community Wednesday. But that's the video. If you enjoyed it or it's helped you in any way, let me know by leaving a like. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down in the comment section down below. And if you want to make sure that you never miss another video, be sure to subscribe. Thanks for watching.